Hey guys, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya. Today I have two different places that I get to take a dessert to, which I'm pretty pumped about that. One is to a sweet family that is part of our church family, and one of the members had surgery, so they're still on a meal train, but I'm such a loser. I don't sign up for a meal train. I just go, you know what, I'm bringing something over and you can just have this as a snack, or when somebody else brings something that you don't like, then just have it instead of that and tell them theirs was delicious and move on. The other one is a friend of ours in the neighborhood. She's going to be out of school for the summer, and I thought that was celebration enough to have some cookies. So we're going to make chocolate chip cookies today, and I'm fixing to show you how. So I'll try to show you step by step. So sit back and enjoy. We have our 2 cups of chocolate chips here. This is going to serve as our double boiler. We'll get those melted. All right. A lot of the fun of making the chocolate chip cookies is eating the chocolate chips as you're going along. I want to show you the 2 different kinds of chocolate chips that I'm using. I just had a little bit of these left, and these are equal exchange chocolates. No, I take that back. I had a full bag of these and a little bit of these left, but I want to tell you about these. These are the kind you're more apt to find in a place like Big Lots or just some random store that gets things in for a period of time and then runs out and never carries them again. But these are, you'll think you're looking at a bag of Ghirardelli, but these are Goodard, and I don't know if it's the same company or not, but these have fabulous ingredients in it. They don't have, here's what you're looking for when you search for good ingredients in chocolate. Preferably organic ingredients, but if not organic, at least look toward the end of the list of ingredients. Make sure it does not contain an artificial vanilla, which is called vanillin. V-A-N-I-L-L-I-N. Research that. I'm not going to go into the details. This is supposed to be a family-friendly video. It's just disgusting. When you figure out what vanillin is made of, you'll search for it and you will never buy it again, I promise. Okay, let me get my stuff out of the way over here. So you want to look for pure vanilla in your chocolate chips, all that being said. All right, so we're going to start out with a cup of butter, and you want this to be softened. Honestly, I just started getting my stuff together a minute ago. This is not softened, but this is Kerrygold butter. This is really good butter. See how yellow that is? That's just pretty. So we're going to go with a cup of butter, which is 8 ounces. So if you're using sticks of butter, that would be 2 sticks. The next thing we want is 6 ounces of cream cheese, and I had some left in a package, and then I had to get a couple of ounces out of another package, so it just looks like a mishmash here. But I've tried to soften it a bit, and it's not really softened that much, but we're going to have the blender going long enough to where it's going to be soft. So again, a cup of butter, 6 ounces of cream cheese. So you're going to take a block of cream cheese and cut 2 ounces of it off and use what's left in there. I'm going to put my beater on here, plug in my mixer, and just give this a stir. If your butter is not softened, it may just fly out of the bowl. Just know that ahead of time. Okay, we have a cup of regular sugar. Now this is unbleached sugar. It comes under the brand name of Zulka, Z-U-L-K-A. You can find it at your local big store in town, I'm sure, but it's really, really good. It's not beet sugar. It's not bleached sugar. It is pure cane sugar, unbleached, in its purest as possible form to get into granulated sugar. So we're going to use a cup of that. Sometimes I fudge a little bit and put just a little bit less, because a little bit less never hurts. Because goodness knows they're going to be eating all these cookies. There's not going to be one left. These are so good. These are called chocolate swirls. So these are not chocolate chips. They're chocolate swirls, but it's similar to a chocolate chip cookie, but we got the cream cheese in it. So, you know, I don't even have to tell you how much I love cream cheese. All right, so let's give this a little stir, because my next problem's fixing to come up. All right, here's where my next problem is. I have a lot of brown sugar in my pantry, but I don't use it enough to keep it soft. And I put it in a container with a lid on it, and so I have what looks like rocks. But that's okay. Do not throw your brown sugar away. All brown sugar is cane sugar or just granulated sugar with molasses added to it. Light brown sugar has a little less. Dark brown sugar has a little more molasses. So just sugar and molasses. If you don't have brown sugar, then take your granulated sugar, add about a tablespoon to each cup to add to make light brown sugar, and add about 2 tablespoons to make dark brown sugar. It's going to give it that invert sugar, which invert sugar just means something that's not going to get hard. Well, I question that now. But when you make cookies with it, it's going to give it that soft chewiness instead of that crunch and crumbliness. So if that makes sense, let's continue on. So I'm going to put these stones in here, and this is where my mixer is going to struggle, but with the moisture from, or the oils and the moisture from the butter, hopefully it'll get softened enough to where it'll break it up. We'll see. If it flies out, then I'll just pick it up and we'll move on. Kind of sounds like it's grinding up gravel right now. Notice I'm not starting on high speed. It's starting on a low speed. I have to keep checking on my chocolate chips, because what you want to do with the chocolate chips is we're going to melt those and then take those off the heat and let them cool down before we add them to our cookie mixture. So just get those done ahead of time. Okay, I'll show you what this looks like now. It has some chunks in it, but it just basically looks like, I don't really know how to describe that. There's not a description for it. There's just chunks of brown sugar in there. So we're just going to keep mixing that. And in fact, this is where a lot of people, they fail to invest the time in this, and their cookies really don't turn out that good. But somebody who is a really good baker knows the secret to this. Now, I don't consider myself necessarily a really good baker, but I have learned this secret. Cream that butter and sugar until you almost cannot feel the grains of sugar in it. I've always been in a hurry when I've done this part. I was just like, oh, well, it's mixed up together. Mixing is not what you're looking for. You're looking for the creaming aspect of this. And what that means, Jason Dean, because I know you're watching this video and you're wondering what this terminology means. Creaming means to lighten it up and add that air to it where it gets real fluffy. But in chocolate chip cookies, or these chocolate swirls in an example here, we're going to make it so smooth it's almost the consistency of toothpaste. So not butter and sugar, which feels like grease and sand together. You're going to have it so smooth that you really don't realize there's a grain product in there, or a grainy, not a grain, but a grainy product such as sugar in there. So this is going to be the key to getting these cookies as smooth as they can possibly be. And it's going to help everything else go together well too. You won't have those chunks of anything in there to, you know, be an inconsistent flavor as well as texture. All right, we're going to turn this mixer back on. Just keep mixing it until that gets smooth. All right, this is getting super smooth here. We're not quite done. Don't think that was the length of time I'm talking about when I'm saying beat it really well. That's not it. You're going to beat this for about 10 minutes. And I used to think, oh, they're just saying that for, you know, people who have a slow mixer or something. I don't really know what I was thinking, honestly, which, you know, it's always like other rules. Well, that's for everybody else. That's not for me. My mixer's doing a good job. It's mixing it really well. No, it's not. I don't care how good your mixer is. It's not mixing it well enough at that point. So let's keep going with the butter. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and add my eggs and vanilla. We're going to get those in there because that's going to give it that loftiness again. And it's going to be super fluffy and smooth. Plus it's a little more moisture to help it. The eggs are a little more moisture to help dissolve that sugar in there. I have 2 eggs, 2 fresh eggs, and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Mine is a homemade vanilla. I make mine from scratch. All right, we're going to turn this back on. We're going to leave this on for about 10 minutes. I'm not going to keep the video going, don't worry. So my husband will edit this part out, but we're going to keep this going for, yeah, about 10 minutes. So I've turned the mixer off. Whoo, that's a lot of noise. Okay, we're going to turn it back on real slow, and we're going to add our dry ingredients, which is 4 cups of plain flour. So this is just organic, of course, unbleached, plain flour, not self-rising. We're going to add a teaspoon of baking powder, and this is the kind that I use. And a half of a teaspoon of salt. Now I still have my chocolate chips over there on the stovetop melting. And we're going to turn our oven on 350, get it preheating. And I put 3 oven racks in there, and I have 5 quarter sheet pans or half sheet pans. So we'll see how many fits on here. This is actually a double batch of this batter. And I make huge batches of this when I make cookies for day camp. But I was afraid that 1 batch wouldn't be enough because the family that I'm taking the cookies to, that family member has had surgery. They have 4 kids and there's 3 adults in the house because there's someone staying with them right now that's helping take care of the person that had surgery. So I didn't want to be short cookies. I'd rather have too many than not enough because I can always find other neighbors and friends to take the other ones too. So, all right, let's make sure everything's on my microphone. All right, this mix is super smooth. This is, I don't know how well you can see that, but that looks like, okay, just my color description, I would say khaki colored shaving cream. That's how smooth this is, khaki colored shaving cream. So we're going to put a little bit of the flour mixture here. You don't want to dump it in all at one time. All we're going to do is just mix this enough to get it moist. And remember, flour has gluten in it. There's a protein in it, and it's gluten. And the more you mix it, the more you work it, the more gluten it gets in it, supposedly. I don't know. That's science. It's not my area of expertise at all, as is most things. But what we're going to do is just stir this in enough to where the batter is moist. You're not going to just keep whipping it up for another purpose. So just to get it moist. So a little bit at a time so it doesn't fly out of the bowl. Get that part moist. Add some more. Actually, I'll add all the rest of it. But still, don't turn your mixer on high, because I'm telling you, it will go up to the ceiling fan. All right, at that point, turn your mixer off. Unplug it. You're not going to need that beater anymore, because when we add that melted chocolate to it, you're not going to stir it in. You're just going to kind of, well, you're going to stir it in, but you're going to fold it. There's another word again that some people wonder what that means. And folding just means not stirring it. You're actually just going to take the ingredients and fold them to the bottom gently, because you don't want to mix it. You just want it to kind of marble inside. So if you get the picture, you still want to be able to see where those flows of chocolate is, and you don't want to just make the whole cookie chocolate. So let's get our batter off our beater. And I'm probably going to have to turn the camera off, the microphone and everything, and just wait a while. Not necessarily for our oven to preheat, because it probably will preheat, but I need to let this chocolate cool down. I should have melted my chocolate chips way ahead of time and let them be cooling off, because I do not want to put warm chocolate in this. It will make the dough a little too soft, and the cookies will spread out more than what they're supposed to. Now that part of science I do know, only because I make a lot of cookies. Not because I'm smart in science, that's a fact. And luckily, we've had such warm temperatures. This is so early for us to be having temperatures up in the 90s here in central Arkansas. We're not normally that hot this soon and this quickly. Normally, you know, we're up in the 90s by maybe sometimes the end of May, sometimes June, but today is the 18th of May, and I know these videos come out several weeks after I actually make them, but it has been in the upper 90s last week. Now, last week I didn't make a lot of videos, a lot of cooking videos, number one, because, well, mainly because I had things going outside. I have a flower bed. I'm trying to dig up bulbs that, bless their hearts, some old person thought it was a good idea to put those bulbs in there probably 70 years ago when our house was built. And they have just multiplied like mice out there. It's crazy how many bulbs I've dug up. When I say probably 1,000, I'm really not exaggerating. It is so many. And I'm so exhausted when I come in the evenings, and I hurt like an old person, even though I don't think I'm an old person. In my mind, I'm really not old. But, man, I'm telling you what, that's hard work. And I feel so sorry for people who work outside when it's hot and have no choice, because I have a choice. I can actually come back in, but whew, that was tough. Okay, I'm going to turn the cameras off and the microphone just to save all that editing. And I'm going to get these chocolate chips stirred up. They're at the point now to where they're kind of melted. I'll actually take one of the cameras and show you what point they're in once I rinse my hand. So these are kind of melted. Once I stir it up, it'll probably get pretty melted. But I have to let these cool off before I put them in the batter. So once they cool off, we'll come back and we'll finish this. Okay, that actually didn't take that long. I cheated and I put some cold water in a cup, and then I put some ice cubes in the bottom of it. But I never let the water get inside this cup. So don't let the water get inside your chocolate chips. You'll wind up with some stuff that feels like chalk. It's just not pleasant. Okay, so my plain batter is right there. But keep in mind, this isn't just chocolate chip cookie dough batter. This has cream cheese in it. There's such a huge difference. It's just unbelievable, the difference. Okay, I wish I had that camera over here so you could actually see me pouring this over here. But what I'm going to do is, hopefully that you can see this well enough, I'm going to just pour this over the top of this cookie dough. I have my handy dandy little scraper here, one of my little new spatulas I'm just infatuated with. I don't know why the little spatulas are so fun for me, but I just can't pass them up when I see them. If it's a good quality one, I can pass up the cheap ones all day long. The ones that crumble when you use them a lot. That's annoying, because it's like, this is food. I don't want spatula crumbles in my food. That's not nice. That's why I appreciate the colored spatulas like the bright, was that a red one I'm using now? I have hot pink and things like that. I don't want one that's the same color as my cookie dough, because then I would never find the crumbles of it if it falls off in there. But if I see a chunk is missing out of my spatula, it's getting thrown away. But I also have to dig the piece of spatula out of my product, whatever I'm making. So it's just easier to spot. All the more reason to use fun colors. All right, use your large spatula, not your small one, to fold this in, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you. All right, let's take this off there. All right, so folding is just turning it in from the bottom, bringing the bottom dough to the top. So you don't want any big puddles of chocolate, but you also don't want to incorporate it enough to where the dough looks like just a big chocolate cookie. All right, so that's about as much marbling as we want to get done. So now we're going to take our cookie dough scoop, scoop these off onto our baking sheets, which I've lined with parchment. And you don't necessarily have to have parchment, but I'm telling you, it makes cleanup easier. You don't have to get rid of the parchment as soon as you make it. Just keep using it over and over until it looks like it's seen better days, and then throw it in the trash. And just keep moving on. But it ensures that your cookies or any other product that you're making is not going to stick to your pan. So that's always nice. All right, I'm just getting this from around the edge of the bowl, so it's going to be easier to scoop. This is my cookie dough scoop that I'm using today. This is the one I've had issues with, and the little sweeper thing that moves in there keeps jumping a cog or something on this handle. Anyway, I try to fix it. All right. I'm going to get pretty much a level scoop of this. Put on there. These don't spread a lot, but man, these are really pretty when they're baked, and I honestly have to contribute it to the cream cheese. I just think anything you add cream cheese to is it's just going to be better. I can't explain it. I'm sure there's a science to it, but these are just so pretty. And talk about soft. These are soft because of the brown sugar, but they're also really soft and just almost a silky smooth because of that cream cheese. I guess you can tell these are some of my favorite cookies. And yes, it's easier to make chocolate chip cookies just because you dump the chocolate chips in there, but when someone's really, really special and you want to make something that they're not going to get from anybody else, and you want to take the time and show them how much you care about them, you'll see what I mean when you make these. Okay, now as you're scooping these out, try not to disturb the rest of the dough, because then you're just going to ruin the marbling of it, or not really ruin it, but you're just going to make it not look as defined. And again, you don't want to just keep mixing it up, because when you get a little river of that chocolate in your cookie and you eat it, ooh, it's so good. And back to the story of our weather, I was saying it was so hot last week, and it's been pretty warm the first part of this week. Today is a Wednesday, but today it's a little bit overcast, and I really like to do my videos when it's sunny in the mornings, and it just adds to the lighting in here, which everybody always says that's the toughest part of videoing anything, is the lighting. But because that's the east side of my house, and I have a sunroom back there with all those windows, the morning sun comes in and it just looks so nice, especially on video. But when it's overcast like this, it's not quite as nice. But I'm going to take a morning that doesn't have 80-degree temperatures by 9 o'clock. So this is a very pleasant day. I walked the dogs this morning and it was probably the most perfect temperature it could possibly be out there. I think it was maybe 71 or 72. It was incredible. These are one of those fun cookies that you can make the dough ahead of time and either put it in the refrigerator to use within, use within the week. But if you want to make cookies at the beginning of the summer to use throughout the summer, just a few at a time, you can take these, put them on parchment, put them close together, put them on parchment, and put that in the freezer. So you're going to freeze those little cookie dough scoops of batter. And then when you get ready for a few cookies at a time, like with these, might be a dozen, but even if you just wanted to bake off 2 cookies at a time, you take those 2 frozen cookies out, let them thaw, and let them thaw in the refrigerator overnight maybe, but if not, you'll just have a little bit longer baking time. But these can easily be baked off from the freezer. Okay, I did hear my buzzer go off just a minute ago, so I'm going to go ahead and put 3 of these in there. And they can be baking while I get the other ones scooped out. We're going to set our timer for 12 minutes. The recipe calls for 10 to 12 minutes, but the more baking sheets you have in there, the longer the cooking time. So I usually add a couple of minutes at least for each extra baking sheet that I have in there. And if they're not done by that time, then I can always cook them longer. I just can't cook them less if I overcook them. Okay, I'm to the corner of this, so I'm going to try to squeeze a few more cookies on this. Worst thing that can happen is they grow together and I just have to cut them apart with a knife, but you know what? They're not going to taste any different than the ones that are perfectly round. So we can safely say this makes 5 dozen chocolate swirl cookies, pretty good sized ones, with this recipe. So if you want to have that recipe, then you're looking at half as many cookies. Now is when my little spatula comes in handy again. Isn't that little guy just too cute? I can tell right now I'm going to have to eat these ones in center because there's no marbling effect on it, and they're probably going to be misshapen, so I will have to use those for testing purposes. So the family that I'm taking the cookies to, I took something there last week to their house, and they live just outside of town, and their youngest daughter found out that I have a YouTube channel, and she says, I said, did you know I have a YouTube channel now? And she said, is it about cooking? And I said, it is. And she went, hooray! She asked her mom, could she look at it right then? And her mom just sweetly said, we'll look at it later. So if Tabitha's watching, maybe she'll get a kick out of this because these are her cookies. Okay, everything's ready to go in. Now, when you get in a situation like this, make sure you have all your hot pads ready. These are going to come out in about 17 minutes and 15 seconds, or a little bit more if they're underbaked at that point. So I'll need a place to sit these, and then I'll put these 2 racks of cookies in, and we'll come back and finish up the video when these come out of the oven. I'll show you what they look like. Gonna get our cookies out. This is our second baking, so we've already baked 3 sheets of them. These are our last 2 sheets, is what I should be saying here. Okay. These are so perfectly sized too. All right, there's one of the pretty ones. I'm not sure if I'm getting this in the shot, but we'll try. That is a pretty cookie right there. Now this, on the other hand, is the misshapen one. This is one of the last ones. See, this is what happens when you keep stirring the dough and stirring the cookie batter, and it just incorporates all the chocolate into it. So you can tell the ones that are really marbled. This is a great example. These are the cooled cookies. This is a great example of the marbling on the cookies. They just have that pretty swirl to them. All taste the same, but some of them just look prettier. So this is definitely the one I'm gonna have to use as a tester. So just so you know, nobody's gonna be endangered by anything because I'm gonna taste this one right here. All right, we'll let these cool off. I'll have this one after lunch. I'm fixing to eat some lunch in just a bit. So thank you so much for joining this. I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch these from start to finish. Even if you just watch a segment of it and go, that looks pretty good, and you click on the description and it has the recipe in there, and that gives you an incentive to go ahead and try these things. So hopefully these are something you're interested in. Click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Please share this with your friends. I love getting texts and messages from people who are making things or have questions or funny stories about something within the video that you've caught. But more than anything, I just love the fact that we're connecting through this medium. So thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.